Hi, this is BB from clutterclearinglifecoaching.com, and tonight I want to make a short video about self-sabotage. Now, what is self-sabotage? Self-sabotage is when we're afraid of certain outcomes. We're afraid of having what we want, or we're afraid of falling short of the mark and not getting what we want. So, along the way, during the process of achieving a goal, we sabotage ourselves because we're either afraid of dealing with getting our feelings hurt, because we may not get what we want, we may not get it the way we want it, when we want it, with whom we want it, how we want it. It's not just so we're already fearing and dreading that feeling of disappointment, of not getting it the way we want it, or just not getting it at all. Or the second part is getting it and then having a whole other host of problems start to occur, including not being able to handle the achievement, the goal, the end result of what you're getting. It could be starting a business that might become too much for you to handle. It might be dealing with clients that who seem to be having some issues that is outside of your realm or scope of expertise. It may be moving from an apartment to a house where everything you have to pay for, and the bills are actually larger amounts, and your income is not doing well, or it might be just the same as when you were in an apartment. So you want these things, but then you're fearing that you're not going to be able to deal with it or handle it, or you're not going to be able to deal with being rejected, or feeling that you've fallen short of your own mark, or somebody's going to be disappointed in you, or you're going to be disappointed in you. You're just not going to get what you want. Like trying to get a date with someone, you have a crush on someone and you want to ask them out, and you've been harboring the crush for the longest while, but the fear of rejection is going to cause a problem. So what do you do in that situation? For example, what do? You try to say, well, she wouldn't want me anyway, or he wouldn't want me anyway. Look at me, You get close to the person and you end up saying something really, really stupid, and then you wonder afterwards, why did I do this? You don't normally do stuff like that, but you do it because you just want to get this down to a minimum. This expectancy is there of having what you want, getting what you want, but the crescendo of the fear of being rejected or it being too much to handle is also strong, and eventually the fear wins out. So we tend to self-sabotage before we get what we want or get disappointment of not having it. So what can be done in a situation like that when we find ourselves repeatedly self-sabotaging? What we do is we get a pen and a piece of paper and write down, in this moment, what are we self-sabotaging on? What is it that we want, and what do we know, we're consciously aware now that we're self-sabotaging around this goal? Write it down. Get all 5 senses engaged, write it down on a piece of paper, and then beneath that write down 3 reasons why it's best to self-sabotage, why it's a good idea to self-sabotage, why it's the best thing in the world to destroy this illusion of having this thing or being disappointed before it's better that way. 3 reasons, and make them good ones. Make them the first 3 that comes up, so that you know what these fears are. Then just beneath that, you will write down 3 to 5 or 3 to 100 reasons why self-sabotaging is not the wisest thing in the world. of what could go right. If you want to ask someone, let's just use that as an example. You want to ask someone out. He could say yes. She could say yes. And even if they say, well, not right now, I'm with someone, or they're, not ready to date right now, it might not be the appropriate time, but you've broken the ice. It's a good thing, isn't it? And believe me, after that, you will feel a sense of empowerment, that surge of empowerment that will take root and grow. And then you're ready to take on the next task almost immediately because you've suddenly changed now. This was one of your biggest fears and you've tackled it. And you don't want to self-sabotage anymore until you hit, of course, another goal that's a little bigger, and you go through the same process until you just learn to wipe out this method of self-sabotage. So we write it down, and then we write 3 to 5 to 100 reasons why we should just do what we want to do, regardless of the outcome. Now, I was just using that one thing as an example because a lot of people do that. If they want something, they have equal amounts of fear of either having it and how will they deal with it after they've gotten it, how will their life change, and or not being able to get it or get it exactly the way they want and dealing with the disappointment. So we tend to self-sabotage. So one of the things you can do is, if it's really bad, get a therapist. If you find that you're self-sabotaging in a lot of areas and not just one, get a therapist. Or get a life coach or any type of motivation coach. They would understand what you're going through, and they have tools and methods to help you to break through this habit of self-sabotaging. Releasing is one of them. In the form of EFT, the Sedona method is a great way to let go of that. These methods works within minutes because EFT allows us to face the underlying problem, the reason, the why we're self-sabotaging, because that's where the real letting go comes, by looking at it, looking under the hood and seeing what exactly we're afraid of. Once we become aware of what exactly we're afraid of, that's 50% of it right there. Then we are able to, one by one, sweep them away, or as a group, and we're able to move forward. And the good news is that these techniques, you can learn them for yourself, and you just administer them on yourself anywhere. Before a big meeting, before going on a date, before, if you're having cold feet or you're second guessing yourself and you feel like you're ready to self-sabotage because you're terrified, you just bring out the big guns, which is any form of releasing. And it's really great, it's fast, and it works within minutes to quell that fear, acknowledge what the fear is underneath so that you can let it go. And you'll find out the monster is not the self-sabotaging itself, is what you're afraid of. It's just not a fear. And the best thing to do with fears is to bring them down, minimize them in your mind. What you want is more important. Your goals are more important than these fears. What you want out of life should always take precedence over a fear. As they say, we were only born with 2 fears, the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. Everything else is learned. I mean, going into the street and playing in traffic, well, that's common sense. It's not really a fear. So, if you need my help with this, I will put in the description the link to my website, which is clutterclearinglifecoaching.com. Look over my website, and I have listed on it a small array of methods that I use to help clear out these fears, these subconscious fears, and break these subconscious patterns and these paradigms that limits us and hold us back from living the life that we deserve. Put your phone number, I will call you as soon as I'm able to, and we will devise a plan to get you to the next state of being or stage of your beautiful life. Until then, keep the self-sabotaging down to a minimum and peace. The next video I will do a releasing, which is EFT around self-sabotaging.